If you grew up in church and you memorized the 10 Commandments, you probably know that most of the commandments make a lot of sense. You shall not murder. God says, don't do that. Okay, that makes sense. And don't commit adultery. Okay, we agree. Don't steal, don't tell lies. Yes, don't worship other gods. There's one commandment that I guarantee if you were picking your top 10, it would not make your list. Because in the third commandment, God said, of all the things that I want you to do, of all the things I want you to remember, I want you to do this. Don't work. At least not all the time. Look at exactly what that commandment says in Deuteronomy chapter 5. God said, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. God says, in my top 10 list is this: observe Sabbath. Now, Sabbath is just a Hebrew word that means to rest. It means to stop, to cease, just to relax and not do the work that you normally do. And the verb observe means simply to guard. It means to protect, to keep something special and set apart. God says, observe the Sabbath by keeping it holy. Holy is a little but powerful Bible word that means something that's sacred, that's untouchable, that's non-negotiable. God says, when it comes to your day of rest, I want you to set it apart as something holy. Don't put it in your to-do list, 15 items long, and if you get to it, you get to it. No, God says, set this apart as something sacred as your faith is, because God says, I want you to rest. Don't murder, yes. Don't commit adultery, yes, but don't work all the time. I'm commanding you to rest. And if I was there at Mount Sinai, I think this would be the time when I might raise a trembling hand and say, God, are you are you sure about that one? I mean, abuse didn't make the list, and slavery didn't make the list, and drunkenness didn't make the list. Why would rest make your top 10 list of things you want your kids to remember? And actually, God would have had an answer. In fact, he already wrote his answer here in Deuteronomy 5. He says, remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and that the Lord your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Therefore, the Lord your God has commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Why do we have to observe the Sabbath day? God's children asked. And his answer is this: so you can rest and remember what you were. God wanted his children to remember this, that slave is not your name.